Welcome. Everyone at Goodlife at 5 as well. Just look down there. Everyone, look that way. Look at the camera. They're all... Anyway, it's all good. Babies are waking up right here. Righto, be seated. We're into it with Here Am I. Week 1, I hear. So we're getting right started. It's a privilege always to share the word of God, and we're getting cracking. There are 6 people in the Bible that said these words, Here am I. 5 of them you'll find in the Old Testament, 1 in the New Testament. I'd love to say for the next 6 weeks I'll be talking through those, but because we have some guest speakers and also I have a 50th birthday bash in Japan to go to, it won't be over 6 weeks. It's going to be over a little bit longer than that, but you'll get the point. 6 times in the Bible it was said, and so we're going to get to the first one here tonight, and it's a guy by the name of Abraham. Now, what you could be told about Abraham is Abraham had many sons. Many sons had Father Abraham. I'm one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord. Right arm. Thank you. I do appreciate that. Hands up those that knew that song. I was going to do the other way around. I thought, no, I won't. It's so all those ones are way too Christian for their church. Too Christian for their church. So Christian it hurts. Abraham. I tell you what, there's something in the way that you read the Bible was the principle of first mention. This is going to help you in your reading of the Bible. When something is mentioned for the first time, it's significant in God's economy, in God's timing, and to set up the definition of what that looks like to the end of time. And so there's a couple of things right here in Genesis chapter 22 that are the first mention and set the scene of what that actually looks like. One of those is the word worship. It appears nowhere in the Bible until Genesis chapter 22. We're going to get to it in a second, but I want you to watch for what worship looks like, what it is, what it isn't. Note that even when it comes to worship right here in Genesis 22, no songs are involved. And so it's an attitude of heart and it's an attitude of spirit. You can attach a song to your worship, and oftentimes because we get used to it, we think worship is the songs. No, worship is an attitude of heart. Right? And so we see by the principle of first mention that is very important. What he's doing is quite important. But this is the first time in the Bible that someone says, and there's generations gone, many generations that have gone to get to the point where Abraham says the words, Here am I. Everyone say, Here am I. It's a response to God. This Abraham is a father of faith. And we're going to read from Genesis chapter 22 from verse 2. Then God said, take your son, your only son, whom you... Now, stop right there. We're going to stop in a couple of places along here. One of those is when God says, take your son, your only son, you might think, I know in the New Testament there was someone who was God's only begotten son, which is... Thank you, Jesus. For those playing at home, it's Jesus. He's God's only son, begotten of God. And so you actually see a lot of similarities. It's a type or a picture that's happening right here with Abraham and Isaac that you can actually see playing out with the same principles in the New Testament with the life of Jesus. God said, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt. See how the similarities continue. We're going to have a death right here. The son is going to die. Then you're going to sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on the mountain that I will show you. Now, I'm so glad. I mean, there's certainly times in my life where my sons, I've felt like killing them. Wow. Certainly, I've never gone through with it. It's never, no, Bex is just shaking her head. It's all right. We never got anywhere near that. But there's certainly times that when you feel like you could have, and you think, no, don't do anything like that. Anyway, so sometimes the sons will get slightly frustrating. The good thing is only one of them lives with me these days, so the frustration is less.
That's not good.
That's not good also? Anyway, let's move on. Joking, I love all of them. Most of the time. It's getting rough right here. But could you imagine God saying, I want you to sacrifice your son? Now, there's a lot that's gone before it. There's been a promise of God, and I'm going to set up, you're going to be a great and mighty nation. And this guy, Abraham, at this point is 100 and something. When the promise of having a son, he was 99 at that time. By this time, Abraham is like 130. So he's now like, right, I've got to kill this son. This 130-year-old guy or so is now going to kill a 37-year-old son. I'm like, you better get good, boy. But could you imagine this old guy going, I don't want to do that. I do not want to do what God's asking me to do. And physically, how the heck is that going to happen? Right? Now, so here's a 137-year-old guy with a 37-year-old son. He's called to kill them. Look, I'm a 50-year-old man and my sons are 17, 20 and 22. There's only one of those kids I've got a hope of doing this to. Two of them would defend themselves very well. But one of them, I'm like, well, look, but how's this gonna, could you imagine? He'd be thinking this is odd, I don't want to, and how? Oftentimes when God calls you to something, you'll be going, really? I don't know if I can do that. How's that going to happen? God, where's the resource? I can't make that happen. And at that point, you're in exactly the right place to say, here I am. God said, take your son, you're going to take him, you're going to sacrifice him. Early the next morning, didn't waste, didn't dally. Early the next morning, Abraham got up, loaded his donkey. He took with him two of his servants and his son Isaac when he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering. So he preps it. He just responds and goes, I'm going to get to work. We're going to do what God's called us to do. I'm going to be obedient. Abraham has been obedient for years, decades. He got promises many years ago and he's trusted God for an extended period of time. God, if you're saying, here, like, I need to do something, it's a yes. I don't know how it's going to happen. I think it's odd. I don't want to do it. But God, if you're saying it, it's a yes. Gets up, cuts the wood. Once he sets out for the place God had told him about. On the third day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. Verse 5, he said to his servant, stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. You guys stay, because I'm going to kill the kid and then I'm going to burn the evidence, essentially. He goes, I'm going to go over there. We will worship. Everyone say worship. This is the point that worship becomes real. Worship is not worship without sacrifice. Worship is not worship if it's casual. Worship is not worship unless you do something to bring an offering. Now, I'm not saying bring your kid to kill, but what I am saying is that worship is not casual. When I worship God, my heart is open and exposed, and all of a sudden God goes, hey Dave, what about that? Right. Hey, what about that reaction? What about those words? What about those habits that you continue with? I can't just worship and walk out the same way. I'm not coming to church expecting just to sing some songs and walk out exactly the same. God, would you transform me? My worship is transformative. Every moment that I have with God is not meant to be just casual songs. It's meant to be worship where I'm transformed. You just guys stay here. We're going to worship and then we'll come back to you. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering, placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. Which I think is a bit odd. If I had to kill my son, I'd be thinking, you poor thing. Don't worry, Dad will carry the wood. But what does he do? Not only gets the wood, he doesn't just say, son, pick it up. He just places enough. He just, no, you need more. No, you need more. You need more. And this is actually what spiritual fathers are meant to do to spiritual sons, is to load you up with things to carry. Life is about being able to actually carry the responsibilities, because the world is changed by those that continually walk out their obedience to Christ and take on the things that he's called you to take on. And the spiritual father doesn't sit back and go, well, I don't know how we're going to get the wood up. What do you think? You know, he goes, I'm going to put the wood on your back, son. And I tell you what, I've seen this over and over and over again. People that just go, no, you can't tell me what to do in this church. I've seen it in many of the churches around as I travel. People go, no, that can't happen. And God goes, you want to get to the top of the hill and everyone wants the promise. Everyone wants the provision that's at the top of the hill. But not everyone's willing to go, come on, pastor, come on, leader. I would say if you're at Toronto, I'd be saying, Greg and Tina, this is a brand new season. What do you want me to carry? And you might be going, I don't know if I can get up the hill like that. But you will have alongside you a mother and a father that are carrying knife and torch. There's work to be done. And you go, well, why is the boy carrying all the hard work? And Abraham, all you're carrying is a knife and a torch. I can assure you the one carrying the greatest burden up that hill was not Isaac. Right. Don't underestimate what God's doing in your leaders. Don't underestimate the supernatural and spiritual weight that your pastors carry. You want to come alongside and you want to go, how can we be a part of this team? You'll get to the top and you'll find God's breakthrough and you'll find God's provision by actually being the team player that He's called you to play. Now, sometimes you're called to be on the bench. If you've had some injuries and it's been rough, sometimes you need some time just to get your stuff together, but you want to actually get healed again in the presence of God, get healing to your heart so you can get back on the pitch and get ready to actually serve and get ready to go. The father of faith in this point says, I need you to carry this. And it's done specifically, it's done wisely, and it's done to bring out the best in the son.
Right.
Carrying the knife and the torch up the hill, it's an interesting journey. But what is the knife and the torch? The knife, if you look through the Bible, it's the Word of God.
Yeah.
It's the sword of the Spirit
Right.
that divides between soul and spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would be the torch? First of all, that's vision, ladies and gentlemen. We can see ahead.
Right.
Number two, it's heat. You need a vision that gives some heat. We've got to get cracking because the natural law of church life and every individual is entropy. I was once passionate for God, but maybe I'm not quite so. Unless you put heat into a situation, unless you put energy into a church, into a Connett group, into a department, come flat and everyone, why is everyone so flat around here? I want to come with some energy, with some passion and with some faith. It's contagious, ladies and gentlemen. The torch is the faith that actually sparks something great. It means we can see which way is going, and here's what you do is if you can run a knife through the torch, all of a sudden that knife is now sterile, that every cut that cuts between the division of soul and spirit is accurate, it's sharp, and there's no infection.
So good. So good.
So I'm not worried about Isaac climbing up the hill with wood. Oh, but he's getting some splinters. There will be some splinters.
Yeah.
Young men and women of faith, there'll be some splinters.
Right.
And at that point, you'll think, geez, that old bloke, can't believe he's not carrying wood. And what he'll see is as you're walking up the hill and you stumble and your footing's a bit unsure, he'll go, hey, let me help you with that. What you've got to watch in that situation is your pastor, your leader, your mentor, man or woman of faith, is going to say, come on, we need to deal with that. And you'll want to blame someone else. What you've got to watch for is that you go, you know what? Yeah, okay, let's sort that out.
Right.
You wouldn't have stumbled if it wasn't for the pressure, but the pressure is actually what shows you what to be dealt with.
Right.
No one's formed, no one's ready, no one's complete. We're all along this journey.
Right.
And so puts the wood on. He carried the fire and the knife. As the two of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, Father? Yes, my son. Abraham replied, the fire and wood are here, Isaac said, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Abraham answered, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. And the two of them went off together. Could you imagine Abraham walking up going, I hope he's going to provide. He's just saying words of faith. Right. It's amazing how vision gives words of faith and direction of faith.
Right.
We can talk about what God is doing in Go Church and what God is doing in Goodlife Church and see a future and see what God is doing. We can prophesy over individuals. We can prophesy over you as a family. We can see what God is doing. They're the words of faith of a vision. Without a vision, people perish and they cast off restraint. And so he's saying, you know what? God is going to provide. Abraham doesn't know how, but God is going to provide. When they reached the place God had told them about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac. Did he trick him? Hey, just Isaac, we're going to play hide and seek for a little while, but you have to count to 1,000. Sneaks up and wraps the rope around him. Like, what happened? Did Isaac lay down willingly? Okay, Dad, go for your life. 137-year-old on a 37-year-old man. I don't know what happened, but there had to be a whole bunch of love and trust between the father and the son. And whether you are a spiritual son or a spiritual father in this place, it's incumbent upon us to build trust and to love each other and bring out the best in each other. Why is Isaac able to take that being bound by his dad? Because he loves and he trusts his dad. We've gone through enough and I can love and trust you. Now, maybe you come from a home where you can't trust the authorities and the leaders in your life. Or maybe you can. Maybe you've been to a church previously where you couldn't trust what happened. Please don't bring in the experience of previous situations and see it in places where it's not.
Yeah, well.
Spiritual mums and spiritual dads are there to be loved and trusted. They want to bring out the best in you. So Abraham was able to bind him. Why is Abraham able to bind him? It's not just Isaac that was able to trust his dad. It was Abraham that was able to trust his dad.
Yeah, well said.
God, you're going to come through on my behalf. It's what's going to happen right here.
So good.
When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there, arranged the wood. He bound his son Isaac, laid him on the altar on the top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham. What's Abraham's response? Here I am. Here I am. There's an urgency. Here I am. I don't want to do this.
Right.
God, you're meant to provide, and this is not meant to happen. I thought you were joking. I was just going ahead with all of the things, and I'm not quite sure. What's his response? There's an urgency in the response. And I'm going to just suggest that with what God is doing in the nation, what God is doing across the planet, there should be an urgency in our spirit, not to be listening to the ways of the world, but to say, God, you know what you're speaking? Here I am.
Right.
There should be an urgency in our heart. Because every time you scroll, every time you click, there's another opinion about something that's happening either locally, nationally, or internationally. And can we be the people that shut off Facebook just for a second and get into his book and actually go, God, this is what's going to shape my world. Not an opinion of someone who's a paid political operative.
Right.
Here I am, Lord. Here I am.
Right.
There's an urgency in his heart. There's an urgency in his spirit. There's an urgency right now in the season that God has got us.
Yep.
Here I am. It means, it's actually a Hebrew word, which means, it's called hineni. This is what it means. It expresses readiness and willingness to serve or respond. It signifies complete presence and attentiveness of the hearer, often indicating a commitment to fulfill a task or a duty. So Abraham's got the knife up and he goes, here I am, I'm attentive. I don't want to complete this duty, I want to not complete this duty.
Right.
God, but whatever you say, we're going to be obedient to.
Right.
So I love this because Abraham had followed all of the directions of God. He'd already gone for many years on the difficult path of obedience. And I love it that God could trust him to keep on going until God said, stop.
Right. Right.
You know, I bump into Christians who say, I'm doing nothing until God tells me what to do. You've got to realise 2/3 of God's name is go.
That's terrible.
If he says in Matthew 28, go into all the world and preach the gospel, then he should have to tell me when to stop, not when to go. Well, what if I do the wrong thing? Well, if you've got a moving vehicle, you can actually steer it a whole lot better. Don't be stopping, waiting, I can't do anything until God tells me. Get active, say yes, sign up on a dream team at Goodlife Church or at Go Church. But Abraham had been going for many, many years. He had to be told to stop. You think he'd been told years ago, leave the land of your mother and father. He was told ages ago, circumcise every male in your house.
Right.
You want me to what? He's used to doing things that he doesn't understand because he trusts his father. And God keeps on coming through time and time and time and time again. There's a trust in this guy. He gets to the point he's amassed all of this wealth, but he's got no kids. God, who's going to inherit this? You're giving me all these promises with sand and stars and all sorts of different things. And he just goes, who's going to inherit? And God goes, now you're ready for the promise.
Right.
He's been used to the promises of God for so long. He's been used to God's faithfulness for so long that when God says, hey, it's time to get up that mountain, he goes, here I am. And when God eventually goes, stop, he goes, here I am. I'm attentive. I'm ready. I'll do whatever you want, God, because you are the way of life. It's interesting, though, because if you look at the life of Abraham, and this is odd because he is a guy who's called a father of faith. He's meant to be an example. And the Bible doesn't just give all of the high accounts and gloss over the mistakes. It gives blow for blow of the mistakes. And because of it, I think I'm very thankful that the Bible includes all the mistakes of all the patriarchs. Because I'm not just, you know what you do if you click on someone's Instagram, you see the highlight reel, but you don't see the mistakes. You don't see the tough days. And the Bible doesn't just give the highlight reel, it gives all of it. So I can go, you know what? If God used a bozo like this, who at the right time he should have protected his wife, did the opposite, who when he was meant to trust God, God, you're going to take care of me and there's going to be a son that's going to be the heir to all of this, and his wife goes, you know what, we're struggling to have a kid, how about you sleep with my maidservant instead? And he goes, oh, okay. God's giving promises and Abraham seems to continue on with mistakes.
Right.
And I'm thankful because God's got so many promises and I'm certainly nowhere near perfect. Only in Rebecca's eyes am I perfect. It's true. I understand completely. You're only flesh and blood. God gives promises to all of us and we just make mistakes. Isn't that true?
Right.
But you're just doing your best. You know you can do nothing that disqualifies you from God loving you.
Right.
You know you can do nothing that disqualifies you from God including you in on his purposes and plans. So when he says, hey, and he calls out your name, can we be the people that respond with, here I am? Everyone say, here I am.
Here I am.
That's what we want to say tonight.
Right.
God, here I am. If you say go up the hill and do something weird, I don't know what to do. You want me to serve? Sure, here I am. You want me to forgive? Here I am. You want me to rock up early? Here I am. You want me to share the gospel with my neighbor? Here I am. You want me to be generous in that situation? God, here I am. I trust you implicitly. And if he makes promises and we make mistakes, all I got to do is come back to God and just go for it. One of the greatest mistakes I remember was actually from my son Samuel. Now my son Samuel was maybe 2.5, maybe 3 at the time. We were living on the Sunshine Coast and Sam was in a pram while his mother pushed him around Australia Zoo. Now we lived on the Sunshine Coast and we had Beck's auntie and uncle visiting from New Zealand who really wanted to go to Australia Zoo. The only problem with that situation is just before they flew into Australia, Steve Irwin was killed with a stingray barb to the heart. Too soon? Too soon. Okay, sorry. It's a good story. You're going to get there, but it's a massive mistake that Sam made. So eventually they reopened. There was these big memorials for Steve. Steve was larger than life as a local on the Sunshine Coast. Larger than life everywhere across the globe. Could you imagine living on the Sunshine Coast? I paddled out once surfing and there's Steve Irwin. And I thought, you know what? This is the safest surf I've ever had. If there's a shark, he's going to pull it up by the tail and go, look at this apex predator. Like I'm just thinking, this is awesome. And classic, in his car keys and took all the big bombs. I'm sitting there going, this guy is an absolute dude. But the dude died and Beck's auntie and uncle still want to go to Australia Zoo. I go to work, they take Sam who's maybe 2.5, 3 and they're going around and the place was somber, it was quiet, there was people crying, there's staff that loved Steve, they did the croc show and the person's crying, all sorts of stuff. Like it's a day to go to Australia Zoo, but it's not a great day to go to Australia Zoo, but everyone's feeling this. And they get to the end of the day and Sam's in his little pram, 2.5, 3-year-old Sam, and they're at the koala enclosure, which is very quiet. And at that koala enclosure, which is very quiet, my 2.5, 3-year-old son Sam sings out at the top of his voice a song, and here are the lyrics. Stingray, 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 stingray. Bex just grabs his mouth, just goes like, you've got to stop, this have to stop. You can't sing Stingray at Australia Zoo straight after Steve Irwin has died of a stingray barb to the heart. This is, ladies and gentlemen, what's called a mistake. Have you made a mistake of that magnitude before? Well, as a 2.5-year-old, 3-year-old, we're sitting there thinking, what the heck has happened? We come off the side and Bex is like, what were you singing? Oh, it was a song I learnt at daycare, mummy. A song you learned about stingrays? No, there's lots of animals in this song that I was singing. What other kind of animals? And there was about 15 other animals, but why he chose stingray at Steve Irwin's Zoo only 9 days after his death to start singing, I have no idea, apart from the fact he gives me great preaching stories. Maybe you've made worse mistakes. God's promises are true if you'll come back like Abraham did with everyone and say, here am I. Every single time, here am I. Financially, 2011, like from the GFC in 2008 through to 2011, we tried to hold on, we lost everything. We made mistakes. But God is faithful. If you come back to God, God is faithful. He wants to provide, he wants to protect. God says if you will come back when you make mistakes, if when he calls out your name, no matter what situation you're in, and you go, God, here am I, Hanani, if you'll say, God, like Hanani says right here, express readiness and willingness to serve or respond. If you will be the person that gives complete presence and attentiveness to God and his plans to indicate a commitment to fulfill a task or a duty, if you will come back to faith, he will stay true to his promises. The provision of God was evident in this situation. Here I am, he replied, do not lay a hand on the boy. He said, do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God because you've not withheld me your son, your only son. Abraham looked up and there in the thicket, he saw a ram caught by its horns. There's so much in that, I haven't got time to unpack it. He went over, took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. Well, there's a couple of lads that are pretty happy that day. Abraham called that place, the Lord will provide. And to this day, it is said, on the mountain of the Lord, it will be provided.
Yeah.
The provision of God happens when you saddle up as a son in the faith or a father in the faith, as a mother in the faith or a daughter in the faith to go, we're getting up that hill together and we're going to say, God, here am I. If you want me to do something, I'll be obedient. If I need to stop something, I'll be obedient. But God, if I've made some mistakes, I'm coming back to you. Ladies and gentlemen, if we would have that heart as individuals and as a church, we'd be unstoppable because every single time you do that, God says, I will provide a ram in the thicket. You didn't know it was there. You didn't know it was possible. You didn't know how to find it. But you don't get to the ram in the thicket unless you get up with the same idea to worship God through sacrifice.
So good. So
You won't get there unless you say yes to God. Here am I. This is a massive story, ladies and gentlemen, that's included in the Bible. It's not one of the mistakes of Abraham. It's one of the great things as a father of faith. It's a massive story. It's a landmark story. It's a world-changing story. It's a nation-shaping story. It's a family tree-shaping story. And there's some people here tonight, and with the decision you make right here and now, it's shaping your family tree for generations to come. As you leave some old things behind and say, God, I'm not letting those mistakes speak to me any longer. I'm saying, Lord, here am I.
right.
You're called to influence. And we as two individual extended family churches are called to unite and also influence. But you know how I mentioned right from the start, if the musos can come and play something romantic, you know I mentioned in the start there's that principle of first mention? And you see it, the word worship. So we find out what worship is about by the principle of first mention. There's also the principle of first mention when someone says the words, here am I. Everyone say, here am I.
Here am I.
But the one that I listed for you was not the first time that here am I is listed. By Abraham. Funny how when you get used to saying, here am I, you continue to trust God.
Right.
God can work with you.
So good.
He was able to say, here am I, and I can trust you, God, because he'd been actually making that principle happen in his world for an extended period of time.
Right.
The first time it's actually mentioned is right at the start of the chapter that I didn't start with, verse 1. Sometime later, after what? After some promises that God had had. There was a delay. There was a delay. It didn't happen straight away. God, you got these great promises and there's a delay. I don't know, how do you go with delays? I don't enjoy them. Do you like a delay? It's not fun, is it? Anyone here love a delay? No. Stuck at the red light? Stuck at the train tracks? At Beaumont Street? I don't like that delay. Lock your doors. They'll offer you Big's coffee. Be my son making it. That's it, okay. There's a delay. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. Abraham, Abraham, he said to him, here I am. He replied, Hanani, God, I give you my full attention.
Right.
I'm ready and I'm willing to serve and respond.
Yeah.
God, at your word. God, at every word, I'm willing to hear and listen
Yeah.
and respond. I'm ready to step out and do something that requires faith.
Yeah.
God, I'm willing and ready to trust you in the area of my finances or my relationships. Or I'm going to trust you. The first mention of here I am didn't happen spectacularly. First mention happened while he's just sitting praying. He's got a habit of just hanging out with his father. And God goes, hey, Abraham. He wasn't a desperate, here I am because I'm about to kill my son, I'd prefer not to. But it's a heart that just said, God, I'm completely attentive to you right now.
Right. So good.
And I'm willing to be obedient.
Yep.
I don't like it. Sometimes I don't like it. I don't always know what you're saying and why I'm meant to do it. I don't always like rocking up at church. I don't always like sharing the gospel. I don't always like putting on a smile when I don't feel like. I don't always like serving God. I don't always like giving my tithes and offerings into the storehouse when I don't feel like it. There's plenty of times I don't feel like I could do without cash. But God, I'm saying, here am I.
Right.
You don't get to the here am I at the top of the mountain and get the provision unless in the quiet times you go, God, here am I. I give you my everything. This is not my life, it's yours. I'm bought with a price, my life is yours.
Yeah.
So right where you're at right now, how about you just close your eyes? And if you want to say, God, here am I, just between you and him, how about you say those words? Here am I. I'm attentive, listening, I'm ready. I want to serve, I want to respond. My life's not my own. When you say, here am I, you're saying my life's not my own. The best days are ahead. Your life's not your own. It's in the hands of God. His provision that you want to chase, it's in him. It's the top of the mountain. There's a ram caught in the thicket. You just got to get to the top of the mountain. Here am I. Come on, how about you say it again? Here am I. Come on, tell him one more time. Here am I. God, speak. Your servant's listening. Here am I. God, here am I. Send me. If there's a world that needs your love, here am I. If there's a world that needs truth, here am I. If there's a world that needs answers, God, here am I. If there's a world that needs someone to go second mile, God, here am I. I'm going to trust you with all sorts of different things and I seem to just make mistakes, but God, I'm saying I'm coming back to you today. Here am I. Come on, someone say, here am I.